They will ignore you until they fear you. They will talk over you until your silence makes them uncomfortable. They will underestimate you until they realize they can no longer control you. And by then, it's already too late. Because the most powerful person in any social situation is not the loudest, not the smartest, not even the most liked. It's the one who cannot be manipulated, the one who cannot be read, the one who cannot be pushed, the one who becomes untouchable. This is the kind of power Niccolo Machiavelli understood better than anyone. He watched courts filled with smiling enemies. He observed alliances built on lies. He studied people who survived not because they were good, but because they were impossible to control. And he noticed something disturbing. The people who suffer the most socially are not weak. They are simply predictable. They react emotionally. They explain themselves. They try to be liked. They seek approval. And in doing so, they hand others the map to their mind. Once someone understands your reactions, they own you. But the moment you become unreadable, you become untouchable. Machiavelli once served in the brutal political landscape of Renaissance Florence, where loyalty changed overnight and a single, careless word could destroy reputations. In one court gathering, a young diplomat tried to impress everyone. He laughed loudly, agreed with everyone, complimented powerful men. He thought he was building alliances. Machiavelli watched quietly. Within minutes, the room shifted. Some mocked him behind his back. Others tested him with subtle insults. A few began contradicting him intentionally. The more he tried to fix it, the worse it became, because the moment people sense you need their approval, they gain power over you. Later, another man entered. He said little, his posture calm, his face neutral. When addressed, he responded briefly. When challenged, he didn't react. When praised, he didn't lean into it. When insulted, he didn't defend himself. Something strange happened. No one tested him. No one mocked him. No one tried to dominate him. He had done nothing. Yet he controlled the room. Machiavelli understood why. People attack what they understand. They manipulate what they can predict. They dominate what reacts. But when a person gives no emotional entry point, the mind of others hesitates. They become cautious. They become uncertain. And uncertainty creates respect. This is the first step to becoming socially untouchable. You must stop feeding people emotional signals. Most people reveal everything without realizing it. Their face tightens when criticized. Their voice rises when challenged. Their body leans forward when trying to prove themselves. These reactions become handles. And once someone grabs those handles, they steer you. But the untouchable person moves differently. Their calm never breaks. Their tone never rushes. Their reactions never expose insecurity. They don't try to win every conversation. They don't correct every misunderstanding. They don't defend every opinion. And this creates something powerful. Psychological distance. Machiavelli wrote that power comes not from force, but from control of perception. If people cannot read you, they begin projecting their own assumptions. Some assume you are confident. Others assume you are dangerous. Some believe you know more than you say. Others believe you are above petty conflict. All of these assumptions increase your influence without you doing anything. In another political gathering, Machiavelli described a nobleman who was constantly insulted by rivals. They mocked his background, questioned his competence, tried to provoke him into anger. He never reacted. Days passed. Weeks passed. The insults continued. He remained calm. Eventually, something shifted. The same people who mocked him began speaking carefully around him. They lowered their tone. They watched his reactions. They feared misjudging him. Silence had transformed weakness into mystery, and mystery into power. Most people destroy this power instantly. They feel uncomfortable with silence. They rush to fill gaps. They explain themselves. They defend their decisions. They justify their actions. Each explanation reduces their authority, because the more you explain, the more you position yourself as someone seeking validation. The untouchable person speaks only when necessary. And when they speak slowly. Not because they are unsure, but because they are not trying to convince. This subtle difference changes everything. Machiavelli observed that rulers who spoke too much were seen as weak. Those who spoke rarely were seen as decisive. Even when they said little, their words carried more weight. In social situations, this translates into presence. When you stop chasing attention, attention comes to you. When you stop trying to impress, people begin evaluating you differently. When you stop reacting emotionally, others become careful. And careful people show respect. Another element Machiavelli emphasized was controlled unpredictability. Predictable people are easy to manipulate. If you always agree, people push harder. If you always argue, people provoke you. If you always joke, people stop taking you seriously. But when your responses vary, you become difficult to read. Sometimes you remain silent. Sometimes you respond briefly. Sometimes you shift the topic. Sometimes you smile and say nothing. Sometimes you acknowledge, then move on. This inconsistency creates mental friction. Others cannot build a stable strategy against you, and when they cannot strategize, they stop trying to dominate. Machiavelli saw this in powerful leaders. They were not erratic, but they were not predictable. Their calm remained consistent, but their reactions did not follow a simple pattern, and this kept others cautious. There is also a deeper layer. Untouchable people do not emotionally invest in every interaction. They do not need everyone to like them. They do not fear being misunderstood. They do not chase acceptance. This emotional independence is felt instantly. Machiavelli believed dependence creates vulnerability. The more you need something from others, approval, friendship, validation, the easier you are to control. But when you appear self-contained, people sense you cannot be pressured. Imagine two people in a conversation. One leans forward, nodding excessively, laughing quickly, trying to connect. The other listens calmly, responding briefly, never overextending. Which one feels more dominant? Not because of aggression, but because of stability. Machiavelli would argue that stability is the highest form of social power, not loudness, not charisma, not dominance, stability. Because stability suggests control, and control suggests strength. He once described a political rival who tried to corner a leader during a meeting. The rival spoke loudly, challenging decisions, trying to provoke a reaction. Everyone expected confrontation. The leader listened quietly. When the rival finished, the leader simply said, "Noted," and moved on. The rival lost momentum instantly. The attack collapsed. The room shifted. That single calm response protected authority better than any argument. This is how untouchable people neutralize tension. They don't fight every battle. They absorb pressure without reacting, and pressure without reaction eventually dissolves. Most people believe being untouchable means being aggressive. Machiavelli understood the opposite. Aggression exposes intention. Calmness hides it. When someone cannot predict your reaction, they hesitate, and hesitation gives you control. There is another behavior Machiavelli noticed. Untouchable individuals never overshare. They don't reveal plans prematurely. They don't express every thought. They don't expose vulnerabilities casually. Information is leverage. The less others know, the less they can use against you. In Renaissance courts, gossip destroyed reputations overnight. Machiavelli saw politicians fall because they spoke too openly. He also saw others rise simply because no one knew enough to attack them. Ambiguity protected them. In modern social situations, the same rule applies. The more you reveal, the easier you are to categorize. Once categorized, you become predictable. Once predictable, you become manageable. But when you remain slightly ambiguous, you become harder to define, and people respect what they cannot fully understand. Another story Machiavelli recounted involved a young officer mocked by older generals. They dismissed his ideas, laughed at his suggestions, and excluded him from decisions. He stopped arguing. He stopped proving himself. He spoke less, observed more, responded calmly. Over time, the generals began consulting him indirectly. They tested his opinions. They noticed his lack of emotional reaction. They grew unsure of his position. Eventually, they treated him as an equal. Nothing external changed, only his reactions. This is the essence of becoming untouchable. You remove emotional entry points. You reduce predictability. You control information. You maintain calm. You avoid chasing approval. You let silence create tension, and tension creates respect. But the most powerful trait Machiavelli observed was emotional discipline. Untouchable people do not allow others to dictate their internal state. Insults do not provoke them. Praise does not inflate them. Criticism does not destabilize them. They remain centered. This emotional neutrality is intimidating because most people rely on reactions to measure influence. When someone cannot move you, they feel powerless. Machiavelli believed the greatest sign of authority was composure under pressure. Anyone can appear confident when things go well, but calm during challenge. Signals control, and control signals power. In social dynamics, this becomes visible instantly. Someone interrupts you. You pause, then continue calmly. Someone disagrees strongly. You acknowledge, without defending emotionally. Someone tries to mock you. You respond neutrally, or not at all. Each time you reinforce the same message. You cannot be pushed. Over time, people stop trying. They shift from testing to respecting. This transformation is subtle. No dramatic confrontation, no obvious dominance, just a quiet change in how others treat you. Machiavelli would say this is true influence, not forcing respect, but making disrespect feel risky. Because when someone appears emotionally stable, unpredictable and independent, others instinctively avoid provoking them. They become untouchable. And once you reach that state, something surprising happens. You no longer need to control the room. The room adjusts to you. Conversations slow around you. People listen more carefully. Challenges become softer. Interactions become measured, not because you demanded it, but because your presence shaped it. This is the silent authority Machiavelli observed in powerful figures. They didn't dominate loudly. They didn't argue constantly. They didn't chase attention. They simply existed, without giving others control. And that is the real secret. Becoming untouchable is not about intimidating others. It's about removing their ability to manipulate you. It's about mastering reactions, controlling information, embracing silence, maintaining calm, and refusing emotional dependence. Once you do this, social pressure loses its power. Criticism loses its sting. Manipulation loses its entry point. And slowly, quietly, you become the person no one can move, the person no one can read, the person no one can control. Untouchable. But becoming untouchable does not end with silence. Silence is only the surface. The deeper layer is emotional positioning, because even quiet people can still be controlled if their emotions remain visible. Machiavelli noticed that most individuals reveal themselves not through words, but through micro-reactions. A slight tightening of the jaw when ignored, a quick interruption when misunderstood, a nervous laugh when challenged. These small signals seem harmless, yet they expose internal pressure. And pressure is what manipulators search for. In the courts of Florence, Machiavelli watched powerful men test each other without obvious confrontation. They would interrupt subtly, delay responses, offer faint praise followed by mild criticism, not to insult, but to measure reactions. Whoever reacted first revealed weakness. Those who remained emotionally still gained authority. This is why untouchable individuals move slowly in social environments. Not physically slow, but psychologically slow. They don't rush to respond. They don't jump into debates. They don't compete for conversational space. Their mind remains detached, observing instead of reacting. This creates a strange effect. Others begin to feel slightly exposed, because while they are revealing themselves, you are revealing nothing. Machiavelli described a diplomat who used this technique flawlessly. During negotiations, others argued passionately. Voices rose. Accusations were made. The diplomat listened quietly. He asked short questions, then returned to silence. The opposing side became uncomfortable. They began explaining more. They justified their positions. They revealed hidden intentions. Eventually, they exposed weaknesses. Without realizing it, the diplomat had said almost nothing, yet gained everything. This is how untouchable people gain leverage socially. They allow others to fill silence, and in doing so, others reveal themselves. Most people fear silence. They think silence creates awkwardness. But Machiavelli understood something deeper. Silence does not create awkwardness. It exposes insecurity. The person who feels uncomfortable first is the one seeking validation, and the one who remains calm holds the frame. Another layer Machiavelli emphasized was controlled emotional warmth. Being untouchable does not mean being cold. Total coldness creates distance, but also suspicion. Instead, the untouchable person shows measured warmth, without dependency. A small smile, but not excessive. A calm acknowledgement, but not eager approval. A polite tone, but not submissive energy. This balance is powerful. It prevents hostility while maintaining distance. Machiavelli saw leaders who mastered this balance. They appeared approachable, yet unreachable. Friendly, yet unreadable. Calm, yet firm. This combination creates psychological confusion. People cannot categorize you as weak, yet cannot label you as aggressive. So they default to caution. And caution becomes respect. Another behavior Machiavelli observed in Untouchable individuals was their refusal to chase closure. Most people seek resolution immediately. If tension appears, they try to fix it. If someone seems distant, they ask why. If misunderstood, they clarify. Untouchable individuals do not rush to resolve everything. They allow ambiguity to exist. This is uncomfortable for others, because ambiguity creates uncertainty, and uncertainty increases your perceived importance. When someone cannot fully read your position, they become careful not to misstep. Machiavelli noted that rulers often allowed small misunderstandings to persist, not to manipulate, but to maintain distance. The more others tried to interpret their silence, the more influence they gained. In social situations, this appears subtle. Someone makes a slightly dismissive comment. Instead of correcting them, you remain neutral. Someone assumes something incorrect about you. You don't rush to clarify. Someone tries to categorize you. You allow ambiguity. Over time, people stop making confident assumptions. They treat you cautiously, and caution is the foundation of being untouchable. Machiavelli also warned against emotional mirroring. Most individuals unconsciously mirror the energy of others. If someone speaks loudly, they respond loudly. If someone becomes aggressive, they become defensive. If someone jokes, they joke back. This makes them predictable. Untouchable individuals do not mirror automatically. They maintain their internal rhythm regardless of external pressure. If someone raises their voice, they lower theirs. If someone tries to rush, they slow down. If someone becomes emotional, they remain calm. This contrast shifts control, because emotional dominance belongs to the person who controls tempo, not the one who reacts, but the one who remains stable. Machiavelli once described a heated argument between two officials. One spoke rapidly, trying to overwhelm the other. The second official responded slowly, pausing before each sentence. The faster the first became, the calmer the second appeared. Eventually, the aggressive official appeared emotional, while the calm one appeared authoritative. Same conversation, different perception. This is how untouchable people reverse power dynamics. They don't fight intensity. They absorb it. And intensity without resistance burns out. Another trait Machiavelli admired was selective engagement. Untouchable individuals do not respond to everything. They choose carefully what deserves attention. If someone makes a trivial remark, they ignore it. If someone tries subtle provocation, they remain neutral. If someone attempts dominance, they respond minimally. This selectivity communicates value, because attention is currency. When you give attention freely, you lower your perceived status. When you give it selectively, you increase it. Machiavelli saw rulers who used this principle. They responded only to meaningful matters. Minor complaints went unanswered. Petty conflicts were ignored. Over time, people stopped bringing trivial issues. This created authority without force. In everyday social situations, this becomes powerful. You don't laugh at every joke. You don't respond to every comment. You don't acknowledge every attempt for attention. You choose moments deliberately, and this makes your reactions more impactful. Another deeper level Machiavelli recognized was emotional self-sufficiency. Untouchable individuals do not rely on social approval to maintain confidence. They do not measure their value through reactions. They do not feel threatened by silence. They do not fear being excluded, because they are internally stable. This internal stability changes external perception instantly. People sense when someone does not need validation, and this creates distance, not negative distance, but psychological respect. Machiavelli believed dependence invites control. If someone knows you need acceptance, they can withdraw it. If someone knows you fear rejection, they can threaten it. If someone knows you crave approval, they can manipulate it. But when you appear indifferent to these things, their leverage disappears. In one gathering Machiavelli described, a man was deliberately ignored by influential figures. They expected him to become nervous, to try harder. Instead, he remained relaxed, speaking casually with others, never chasing their attention. Eventually, the same figures approached him. Because indifference reversed the dynamic. This is the paradox of social power. The less you need influence, the more you gain it. The less you chase respect, the more you receive it. The less you react, the less others attempt to control you. Machiavelli understood this deeply. Power is often granted to those who appear unaffected by it. Another technique he observed was controlled eye contact. Untouchable individuals do not stare aggressively, nor avoid gaze nervously. Their eye contact is calm, steady, and brief. They look, then disengage naturally. This communicates comfort. Overly intense eye contact suggests dominance seeking. Avoidance suggests insecurity. Balanced eye contact suggests control, and control reinforces untouchability. Machiavelli also noted the importance of ending conversations first. Those who linger appear dependent. Those who leave calmly appear self-directed. Untouchable individuals do not abruptly exit, but they disengage naturally when interaction has served its purpose. This subtle behavior communicates autonomy. Autonomy signals strength. In Renaissance politics, leaders who controlled entrances and exits controlled perception. They appeared busy, selective, and intentional. This created psychological distance. In modern settings, the same rule applies. You don't overstay. You don't stretch conversations unnecessarily. You engage, then disengage calmly. People remember those who leave at the right moment. Another layer Machiavelli emphasized was emotional neutrality during praise. Most individuals brighten when complimented. They lean forward. They become more engaged. This reveals need for approval. Untouchable individuals accept praise calmly, a slight acknowledgement. Then they continue normally. This signals confidence, because someone secure does not inflate under approval. Machiavelli saw rulers who remained composed even when celebrated. Their calm acceptance reinforced authority. Those who reacted enthusiastically appeared eager, and eagerness reduces distance. Distance preserves power. Finally, Machiavelli believed the ultimate sign of being untouchable is consistency. Not rigid behavior, but consistent emotional stability. Others may change tone, mood, or pressure, but you remain centered. Over time, people stop testing you. They understand your reactions will not shift. They adapt instead. And when others adapt to you, you hold silent control. This is the second layer of becoming untouchable. Not just silence, but emotional discipline. Not just mystery, but stability. Not just distance, but independence. When combined, these traits create a presence that cannot be easily influenced. Conversations shift, dynamics soften, challenges become careful. Without confrontation, without dominance, without force, you become the person who listens more than reacts, observes more than speaks, moves less, but influences more. And slowly, people begin to sense something different. They cannot provoke you, cannot read you, cannot pressure you, so they stop trying. And that is the moment you cross from simply being calm to being untouchable. But the final transformation into becoming untouchable happens when you stop trying to protect yourself and start controlling the emotional environment itself. Because true social power is not just resisting pressure. It's shaping the space so pressure never reaches you in the first place. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. He observed that the most secure leaders were not those constantly defending themselves, but those who subtly dictated the tone of every interaction. They didn't argue. They didn't dominate loudly. They simply set an emotional temperature others unconsciously followed. When they were calm, the room slowed. When they were brief, conversations shortened. When they ignored provocations, tension dissolved. This is the final layer of being untouchable. You don't fight dynamics, you set them. Most people enter social situations reactively. They adapt to the loudest person. They match the fastest speaker. They mirror the most emotional individual. And by doing this, they surrender control. Untouchable individuals reverse this. They enter calmly and remain calm no matter what. They speak slowly, regardless of how rushed others are. They respond briefly, even when others ramble. And slowly, almost invisibly, the group begins adjusting. Because humans unconsciously align with emotional stability, chaos looks weak. Stability looks powerful. Machiavelli once described a tense political assembly where accusations filled the room. Officials argued, voices overlapping, alliances shifting. Then one senior figure spoke quietly. Not louder, not aggressively, just slowly. The room gradually fell silent. He didn't command silence. He embodied it. And others followed. This is what untouchable presence looks like. You don't demand attention. You become the calm center attention moves toward. Another final trait Machiavelli emphasized was strategic detachment. Untouchable individuals do not attach their identity to every conversation. They don't feel personally attacked by disagreement. They don't treat every social interaction as a battle. This detachment makes them impossible to destabilize. When someone criticizes them, they evaluate calmly. When someone ignores them, they remain unaffected. When someone challenges them, they respond neutrally, because their internal state does not depend on external approval. This is rare, and rarity creates authority. Machiavelli believed the most dangerous opponent was the one who had nothing to prove, because someone trying to prove themselves can be baited. Someone trying to win can be provoked. Someone seeking validation can be manipulated. But someone detached cannot be moved. In one story, Machiavelli described a nobleman repeatedly challenged in public. Rivals tried to embarrass him, pushing him to defend his reputation. He never argued, never escalated. He simply responded calmly when necessary and ignored the rest. Eventually, his rivals looked petty. Their aggression contrasted his composure, and the audience shifted toward him. He didn't defeat them directly. He let their emotional instability defeat them. This is the quiet power of being untouchable. You don't destroy opposition. You allow it to collapse against your stability. Another crucial element is emotional economy. Untouchable individuals do not waste reactions. Every expression is measured. Every response deliberate. Every engagement purposeful. Most people leak energy constantly. They react to jokes, defend minor opinions, correct small misunderstandings, show irritation at trivial comments. Each reaction lowers their perceived control. But when reactions become rare, they gain value. Machiavelli observed rulers who rarely displayed emotion. When they smiled, it mattered. When they disagreed, it carried weight. When they spoke, people listened. Not because they demanded it, but because they did not dilute their presence. This restraint creates gravity, and gravity attracts attention. Untouchable people also master timing. They do not interrupt. They do not rush. They do not compete. They wait. And when they speak, it feels intentional. This changes perception dramatically. The one who waits appears confident. The one who rushes appears anxious. The one who speaks deliberately appears controlled. Machiavelli saw this in negotiations. The side that spoke less often influenced more, because silence forced others to reveal themselves, and revealed intentions create advantage. There is also a paradox Machiavelli understood deeply. The more you try to appear untouchable, the less you become, because effort reveals insecurity. True untouchability comes from internal calm, not external performance. You don't pretend not to care. You genuinely don't depend on outcomes. You don't act mysterious. You simply don't over-explain. You don't force silence. You feel comfortable within it. This authenticity is felt immediately, and authenticity reinforces authority. Eventually, something subtle begins to happen. People stop interrupting you. They listen more carefully. They choose words more cautiously. They hesitate before challenging. They treat you differently, without knowing why, because you removed their ability to control you. Machiavelli believed this was the highest form of influence, not forcing respect, but making disrespect uncomfortable. You don't demand attention, yet you receive it. You don't chase approval, yet you gain it. You don't fight dominance, yet you hold it, all through calm, restraint, and emotional independence. And this leads to the final realization. Being untouchable is not about power over others. It's about power over yourself. Once you control your reactions, no one else can. Once you remove emotional dependence, no one can pressure you. Once you embrace silence, no one can overwhelm you. You become stable, while others fluctuate. You become calm, while others react. You become unreadable, while others expose themselves. And in that contrast, authority forms naturally. Machiavelli understood human nature in its rawest form. People test boundaries. They push reactions. They search for weakness. But when they encounter someone who does not react, does not chase, does not reveal, they stop. Not because they are forced, but because the effort feels pointless. That is the moment you become untouchable. No dramatic confrontation, no loud dominance, no visible struggle, just a quiet shift in how others perceive you. You are no longer the person trying to fit in, no longer the person reacting emotionally, no longer the person seeking validation. You become the calm center others adjust around. The one who listens more than speaks, the one who observes more than reacts, the one who moves less, but influences more. And when you reach this state, something powerful happens. You walk into a room, and nothing shakes you. You face criticism, and nothing destabilizes you. You encounter manipulation, and nothing hooks you. Because your control comes from within, and that is the final lesson Machiavelli leaves behind. If you cannot be read, you cannot be predicted. If you cannot be predicted, you cannot be manipulated. If you cannot be manipulated, you cannot be controlled. And when no one can control you, you become socially untouchable.